Welcome to Self-Care for Extremely Busy Women. It's a hectic life out there, so come on in, settle down, and relax. Here's your host, the author of The Extremely Busy Women's Guide to Self-Care, Suzanne Falter.
Hi friends, welcome back to our strange new world. May you enjoy a little chunk of serenity here. This is my goal. I'm Suzanne Falter, your hostess. And honestly, I just want to give you a hug. That's all. Just right now, I want to give you a hug. Because that's what we all need. These are uncertain times, obviously. I am speaking to you from the midst of the coronavirus pandemic in 2020. We're never going to forget these times, but hopefully we're going to learn something from them. And I'm going to start today's show, which is really about kind of a wild food source I've just rediscovered in the midst of all this. But first, I want to share with you some insights I had about taking a walk. This is from a recent blog post of mine called How to Take a Walk for Maximum Self-Care. If you're like me, you walk when you need to decompress. So I was especially grateful that California's shelter-in-place order included a provision for us to walk and hike. Because if there was ever a moment when I needed to get out and take a break, well, that would be now. So I walk. I keep my distance from others, of course, because in a pandemic, that is the prudent thing to do. When someone comes up the sidewalk towards me, I head into the street if I don't see any cars coming, or I even scramble up on a bank. This is my one steadfast rule. Now, I live in a neighborhood in Oakland, California, with a lot of steep hills, and after a day of sitting at my desk, I take off to its empty back streets and staircases with abandon. Now, maybe I have Spotify playing a podcast in my earbuds, or maybe it's just my favorite upbeat playlist called Ready for the Day. Or maybe I want to simply have no sound in my ears and enjoy the sun, the garden, the passing show. Sometimes I even head up to the local park. Yesterday, my wife and I took a walk on an open preserve near the Oakland Zoo. You can see for miles from the top of it, even as far as the Golden Gate Bridge. And if you go back and you look on the show notes page for this episode, you'll see my picture, and in the very back left-hand corner, you can even see the Golden Gate Bridge. Studies say that walking is hugely beneficial for all of us, and that's why the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has decided we all need to walk or exercise moderately at least 150 minutes per week. Now, Consumer Reports tells me walking will lower my body mass index and my weight. It'll give me lower blood pressure and cholesterol, a lower risk of diabetes, a better memory, a happier mood, and even, if I really push it to 15,000 steps a day, a longer life. But to get to most of those good benchmarks, I need to walk a little closer to 180 minutes a week. But hey, that's not a lot. Not these days. I mean, please, what are we doing with ourselves, huh? It's only 30 minutes of walking 6 times a week, my friends. And if you simply make it a habit and do it at the same time every day, this is imminently doable. Now, I tuck my smartphone into my backpack and I set off and, honestly, I'm just curious to see how far I'll go each day. The key is to allow myself to wander, but with alacrity. And if I get lost, I map my way home using my GPS. Turns out there is a lot to explore. In fact, I feel like I barely know this city. Now, as I walk, I notice there's a strange air of normalcy around me. Even though the world is in chaos at this moment, I see people tending their gardens and children's hopscotch games chalked on the sidewalk, as if not a thing is wrong. I see spring pushing forth in the blooming trees of pink and white, and beds of impeccable tulips in the wealthier parts of town. I see dogs sniffing and babies napping and neighbors chatting, all at an admirable distance. Yes, my friends, the world goes on, one step at a time, as it ever has. Even though we are experiencing a global crisis, the likes of which have not been seen in my lifetime or most likely yours, on some level, life does go on. All we can do is keep on as we have been each day, determined to find a new, better way, possibly, to manage our lives. For maybe this is the unspoken silver lining to this global pandemic. Suddenly we find satisfaction in the simplest of activities. When once I needed a shortbread from the bakery or a new read from the library or maybe even a lunch out, now just a walk seems to do it. It's remarkable how quickly my interest in superficial fun has faded away. If there was ever a time for reflection, for self-improvement, for returning to gratitude and simplicity, well, this is it, friends. We can use this time to go within, to journal, to think about the changes we'd like to make in our lives. Or we might even look for ways to express our gratitude or give back to the world. And yes, we can build in self-care like we never have before. I'd say such times demand it. May you find your way through the coronavirus crisis to a new level of understanding about yourself and the world. May you stay healthy and strong, of course, but may you also discover what is truly wonderful about this life, because right now, that is our golden opportunity. Hey, if you have questions about self-care, let me answer them. I'm taking emails. Just send them to my address with the subject header question. Send it to Suzanne at SuzanneFalter.com. If you have questions about self-care, about life, about getting through this darn thing, I'm here for you. Got this question from a reader named Rachel Carol Baker. I'm a teacher, she writes, and I'm new to working at home during the coronavirus crisis. How do I get into a better routine of not looking at my email and laptop all day and night? Oh, my friend, I hear you. This is what we are doing right now. So, yeah, we have to work, but we have to allow ourselves a little time to adjust to this crazy crisis. And if it's possible to do a little grounding, a little meditation, pulling out a journal and just spending 5 minutes writing down all your thoughts about coronavirus, just sort of getting them out on the table, it might help you feel more grounded and solid and steady, and therefore able to sit back and get your work done. I mean, I've been totally experiencing the same thing, and the only thing that is helping me is discharging emotion and thoughts. We are also going to be in a different place in a week, and you might want to be a little gentle with yourself and not rush to force yourself to do what may be really difficult to do. You're going to get up to speed, and so will all your students. It's just a matter of moving through the shock of what is a profound global crisis, the biggest thing that will probably happen in our lifetimes. We're just going to have to go through it, but we can go through it together. Thank you very much for writing in, Rachel. Hope that helped. And if you're listening to this with a question, just send me an email, question in the subject header, to Suzanne at SuzanneFalter.com. Thanks. Okay, hands up if you've got a difficult mother or father and you're taking care of them. You know what I'm talking about, girlfriends? Sometimes it can be really stressful, especially if you feel you're pulled in a million directions and you've got this overwhelming sense of guilt when you just want to do something for yourself. I have the solution. This is going to be so great. My friend Lauren Gelberg Goff, who's been on this podcast, has created a 5-lesson free mini course called the Guilt Detox. I absolutely love it. Love it, because it is getting me and you and everybody else to journal on these key questions about why we feel this guilt and how to move forward in an actionable way so we get what we need. If you're dealing with aging parents, you got to check out guiltdetox.com/busy women. The link is on the show notes page. Okay, my friends, here's one of our coronavirus specials. Doug Evans is the author of a remarkable book, which is called, fittingly, The Sprout Book, because it's all about sprouting. I don't know if you people were around in the 70s and 80s. I was, but not all of us were even born yet. And sprouting was a big damn deal then. And it's back because that's what these times require. Doug Evans is no slouch. The dude is an early pioneer, and I mean seriously, in the natural food industry. He co-founded Organic Avenue and Juicero, the first fresh farm-to-glass automatic cold-pressed juicer. We've all heard of Juicero, right? Because he really wants to bring fresh processed foods home. And isn't that an ultimate act of self-care? So he is joining us from his home in the Mojave Desert. Hello, my friend. I'm excited to meet you.
Hello. Lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for your passion and your interest in sprouts.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story about that. When it became clear we were going to shelter in place here in California as a result of this novel coronavirus, I said to myself, I think we need some alternative to frozen vegetables. How are we going to get through this, especially if we're truly quarantined and we can't leave our homes for an extended period of time? And that's when I remembered sprouts. And I went down to the plant store and I bought sprouting seeds. And I found the old sprouting lids from the days gone by. And I pulled out some mason jars and I did kind of an ersatz little home version. And then I found your book and I found you. And that was all such perfect synchronicity. So take it away, Doug. Why are sprouts the thing we need right now?
Well, I think the thing, we need them now and we need them always.
Because, yeah, right.
Right? So all plant life on this earth starts with a seed that is dormant that then germinates and grows into a vegetable or a tree or a fruit tree. And so everything begins with sprouts. So why we need them now in particular is exactly, for two reasons. One, you talked about food for sustenance during self-isolation and quarantine, but it's also not just food, because you could have packaged food, powdered food, frozen food. But the idea, and I think there's a general consensus from all health organizations, that vegetables are good for you.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Totally.
So the ability to grow your own vegetables at home without soil, without sunshine, without special equipment for pennies a serving is remarkable. That's why we need them now. And I didn't have to order any incremental seeds for self-isolation, because sprouts are just part of my routine, and the seeds have such a long shelf life that I already had 50 pounds of seeds, in my refrigerator, in dry storage, and in the freezer.
All right. So let's also note something key. These sprouts do not take long to go from little tiny seed to something edible and yummy. Can you say something about how long they take to develop?
So it's actually really interesting. So the seeds themselves, for the most part, are also edible.
Right.
So that's just one thing to know. Like, you can eat sprouting seeds. They're not popular, but a poppy seed, a chia seed, a broccoli seed all look relatively the same. Mm-hmm. So to make them from a dry seed into a sprout can take as little as 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours. So you can take literally 1 cup of peas or lentils or mung beans, soak them overnight, and they're germinated. And then you literally drain out the extra water, you rinse them, then you strain out the extra water. And within 24 hours, they are totally soft, edible, crunchy, nutritious, and delicious. So in little as 48 hours, you have edible food. what makes sprouts really kind of amazing is that by adding the water to them, nature takes over. And something like broccoli sprouts will grow 8 to 10 times their volume. So what looks like a little speck of dust will actually grow into a green vegetable in 3 days, 5 days, a week. So you're actually able to grow, have your own organic garden in a tiny part of your kitchen.
Yes, that's what I thought was so fun. And, a lot of our listeners are women with small children who are all home now. And folks, take note because, well, actually, some of them may not be home, but they may be home soon. Take note because this is an awesome activity to do with kids.
Well, you say that, and what got me so excited about sprouts was it's not quite instant gratification, but it's darn near instant gratification.
Well, and you learn how something grows. Usually we are planting, like community gardens or school gardens. You put something in the ground, you don't really get to see the roots. You don't really get to see it sprout. Maybe you might see a little something come above the ground, but that's a longer process, maybe 7 days, 10 days, 14 days. Like you said, immediate gratification. And I have now got a bean mixture of mung beans, alfalfa, etc., upstairs going, along with a jar of broccoli sprouts. And it's a race, like which ones are going to get like yummy faster and ready to go. So now here's a question. This has really been on my mind. Can you just go to the grocery store and buy, bulk peas or bulk mung beans and sprout those? Or do you have to have special sprouting seeds?
Well, fundamentally, you could do that. I highly encourage your listeners and people to buy seeds that were designed for sprouting because there's a high probability that the handling of seeds that were in bulk bins may not have been handled with the care and the intention of eating them as raw living plants. Mm-hmm. Most of things in bulk bins are designed to be cooked. Mm-hmm. So there might be a different level of food safety and sanitation associated with them.
Mm-hmm. Very key. That's great.
So that's one point. The next point is that seeds for sprouting are cultivated and tested for high germination.
Very interesting. That's perfect. What are your favorite seeds to sprout, Doug? Point us in some directions.
Yeah. So I love broccoli sprouts. Mm-hmm. I think broccoli sprouts, have been the most tested. So there's the most peer-reviewed literature on broccoli sprouts of all sprouts because of their chemoprotective properties. And mm-hmm. so there's a lot of research coming out of Johns Hopkins and around the world that broccoli sprouts have these anti-cancer healing protective properties. And when you chew them, you blend them, you actually release this compound. It makes a compound called sulforaphane, which is like unbelievable for almost everything, for longevity, for treating, for depression. It's actually the number one proven treatment, not cure, but treatment for autism.
Broccoli sprouts.
Broccoli sprouts.
Fascinating.
The sulforaphane in broccoli sprouts. So
wow.
I love broccoli sprouts, and literally it's pennies a serving to consume that. So I'm always rotating many different jars of sprouts in their different stages so that I make sure that I always can have a few ounces of broccoli sprouts.
I love it. I just remember when broccoli sprouts were kind of trendy, maybe 15 years ago, there would be little plastic flat trays of them available that, they'd clearly grown the sprouts in the little tray and they were sort of pushing at the lid, jamming it out of there and looking so abundant. And I personally think they're delicious. The other ones I love are radish sprouts.
Oh, yeah.
Those are, if you're a lover of kind of peppery flavors, that's just delicious. Really is.
That the bite that they have, like that kick that the radish sprouts have, and whether it's regular or daikon radish, the radish sprouts, that kick, that bitterness is something that protects the plant from insects and from being compromised. And it's proven that those things are actually good for us.
That's
So
great.
I like that. And I love the crunchy sprouts. So I have like mixes that I make of peas and lentils and mung beans and the zucchini, and they form this array of colors, and they're crunchy and incredibly satisfying to eat. So,
Yeah.
so I love that. I want to just talk a little bit about like lentil sprouts versus cooked lentils. So,
Oh,
okay, lentils are terrific. They're used in diets around the world, and sprouted lentils are even more terrific because when you sprout the lentil, you have a living plant and you're activating the antioxidants with inside of them. So for example, lentil sprouts have 3 times the amount of vitamin C than in a cooked lentil. So it's like, wow, something that unsuspecting is a source of vitamin C. So especially like if you're in isolation and in quarantine where you're at risk of scurvy and other things for deficiency, you can get your vitamin C. Lentils also have like 7+ grams of protein in an 8-ounce serving. And you can buy sproutable lentil seeds for a couple dollars a pound. And then when you sprout them, they take in the water and then they grow and they get their tail. So they're increasing their volume. So they're low cost, they're high micronutrient, and even high protein. So
yes, that's so interesting that lentils have protein. You know, I saw in your book that sprouts have more nutrients than meat. I thought that was really interesting. And I wondered about the protein as well. Can you talk to that a little bit?
yeah, so basically protein are, and I want to qualify, I am not a doctor, a nutritionist, a dietitian.
Thank you.
Right? I am a lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm.
And in my book, just to qualify things, because I'm not a doctor and a nutritionist or a dietitian, I interviewed, a dozen of the top 10 health professionals in the world, from Dr. Dean Ornish and Dr. Joel Furman and Dr. Josh Axe and Dr. Mercola and Dr. Goldhammer and Dr. Joel Kahn and, the RD from the Kennedy Dana-Farber Institute, Stacy Kennedy.
Cool.
And these health professionals, they have 2 things in common that I found. One is they want people to be healthy.
Yeah.
And 2, they like sprouts. But otherwise, someone's recommending the paleo diet or the keto diet or functional medicine. So basically, protein is an amalgamation of amino acids. So if you're getting enough calories and you're getting a wide array of sprouts, you will actually form complete proteins. So there are 8 essential amino acids that form proteins. There are 21 or so amino acids. So if you look at it from a pound per pound, ounce per ounce, calorie per calorie, sprouts are very high in protein, and you can actually get protein specifically, in many of the legume family of sprouts, and even the others, the vegetable and garden array, like you were making the alfalfa and the broccoli sprouts, have some degree of protein. But the lentil sprouts, the pea sprouts, the mung bean sprouts, the soybean sprouts, all are very high levels. And like soy is a complete protein. So literally, I have in my refrigerator a plate of soy sprouts that took 4 days to soak and sprout, that have tails, that are complete proteins.
That is very awesome. So this is an appropriate food and perhaps even an essential staple for vegans, for sure, and for vegetarians, sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, what's good about it when you compare it to meat is that sprouts also have fiber, and fiber is essential.
Mm-hmm.
And protein exists in the plants and in meat. And so when you're consuming the sprouts, you're getting the proteins, you're getting the amino acids, and you're getting the antioxidants. So meat has virtually no vitamin C, it has no fiber, and it has LDL cholesterol. So it's things that, people like eating meat, and I do my best not to judge anybody because, we live in a world of free choice, but from a level of, can you be healthy and can you get your protein and your calories and your everything else from sprouts? I believe the only thing that you can't get from sprouts is vitamin B12 and vitamin D.
Very interesting. So I want to ask you another one of these healthy consumption questions, which is that in the book you state that the sprouts are healthier than drinking juices. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Can you say a little more about that?
I think vegetable juice, and I love green vegetable juice. The USDA recommends 7 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables, and a fresh whole juice is considered a serving of fruits and vegetables. But when you're making a juice, you're removing the fiber. And so if you're having a green juice, you're concentrating the micronutrients. And if you're eating a sprout, sprouts are a whole food. So if you're thinking about having whole food, plant-based, the ability to have sprouts over juice are a preference from food and sustenance.
Yeah.
But, if you gave me a choice of, Doug, would you like a drink? Probably the thing that's most essential is we all need to have water, right? We need to have water. But then secondly, my second choice would always be a green juice, because a green vegetable juice, in particular organic, is basically rainwater that's filtered through the soil, through the roots, through the leaves, through the stalks of the plants, and then you're extracting it along with nutrients. But things like coffee, tea, milk, soda, beer, energy drinks, wine, like those are choices that people have, but I think green juice is probably better than those. So you're comparing a food and a beverage.
Yeah.
So I think we need to have food. Sprouts are a complete food. That's what I meant in the book.
Okay, so let's talk about how to actually grow these things.
Okay.
Just now, you mentioned jars. I'm using mason jars. I may not be doing it right. Help us figure out how to get set up to do this.
So literally a mason jar and then some method. Now, you had mentioned in the health food store when we were talking before, they make these special lids that fit on the mason jars that are a screen. So either plastic or metal. And those are used to strain the water from the seeds. So if you think about like the steps, step-by-step sprouting, you get your seeds, you get a good source of water, and you have your jar. You think about a ratio of 1 part seed to 3 or 4 parts of water, because the seeds will take in the water and you don't want them to dry out.
This is the initial water you soak in.
Initial water you soak in. So you think about the jar being up like a glass, and you add the seeds, you add the water, you stir it to make sure that all the seeds aren't floating so that they're down. And you put them in a dark place.
You put them in a dark place.
Dark place. You're simulating going into the ground or going into the belly of a beast. So you put them in there. Depending on the size of the seed, really determines whether it's a good indication, not necessarily on all cases, but the size of the seed will determine how long you soak them for. So things like broccoli seeds or alfalfa seeds, you could soak them for as little as 5 hours. The larger seeds, the garbanzo and the mung beans and the peas, you want to soak overnight, 8 to 12 hours.
Is it possible to soak them too much?
Yes.
And what would happen?
They would just waterlog. They need oxygen. And to consume oxygen, and they actually release CO2 as they grow. So if you soak them for too long, they will drown and they will never sprout.
I think I soaked mine too long.
Yeah.
Learning as I go, Doug.
It is easy, but you have to follow directions.
Yeah.
And so first stage is if you're buying organic sprouting seeds, I generally, as a disclaimer, I say always rinse your seeds and rinse them, wash them. if you're buying the seeds from a bulk bin, you definitely want to rinse them off. And you may even want to use a disinfecting agent, whether it's like hydrogen peroxide or a specific wash, for the seeds and vegetables, just to remove any potential contaminants.
Do you talk about that process in your book, the disinfecting?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Because that sounds detailed, and I don't want to get into too much detail here.
Right. It's in the book. Okay. So we'll do broad strokes in times of self-isolation. You get a jar.
Yeah.
Although people may have more time on their hands now, but you get a jar, you get the seeds, you soak the seeds for between 5 hours and overnight. Then you need to strain the extra water. So you can either use the custom lid that you buy in a health food store or buy online, or in the old days, you would just take some cheesecloth, put cheesecloth over the jar with a rubber band or even a tie so it stays on, and then you strain out the extra water, and then you add more water in, and then you turn the jar upside down at about a 45-degree angle, and you leave it upside down, inverted, for 12 hours. And then the end of the day or the beginning of the next day, you add more water, and then you strain again. You do this for a few days.
How on earth can we put a jar at a 45-degree angle? I'm mulling this over.
You generally put the jar in a bowl.
Oh, how brilliant.
The bowl will collect the extra water. What I've actually do in my bulk sprouting is I buy like a bin, kind of like an oversized Tupperware type of bin.
Yeah.
And then I buy a dish rack strainer that they have for the sink that basically has little bars, and then you just sit it in there and you get the angle, and it's perfect.
We're talking about the wooden dish racks that are collapsible?
Those are perfect angle. Those work, or metal ones. And so that's perfect to keep the angle
right.
Correct.
I'm going to post links to the lids, the jars, the cheesecloth, all these elements if folks want to see if they're available online during our self-isolation.
So you do that until it's harvest time. You rinse the seeds twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day if you feel favorably inclined, or if you're in a dry climate like where I am in the Mojave Desert.
Okay.
So you basically are adding moisture to them so that they can grow. And then depending on the variety of the sprout, you'll see a tail growing and leaves growing. And there's a lot of references to see when they're ready, but they'll literally go from a seed into a vegetable.
Yeah.
And then you do a final rinse, and then you let them drain out for another 5 hours or 8 hours so that you're removing the extra moisture, and then you no longer strain them. Then you could take them out of the jar or turn the jar upside down and store it in the refrigerator or eat them. So
Why do you store them upside down? That's interesting.
You store them basically to remove the moisture.
Okay.
Once the moisture is gone, you can store them right side up. And you want to just make sure that you're not having excess moisture on the sprouts, because that could create mold.
Yeah, we want to avoid mold. We want them to sprout. We want to maximize the yield from the sprouts, because we're going to be potentially buying special little seeds, which mean they have to be ordered. So these are like the do-it-right tips. And some may be messy gardeners like me. I just kind of threw them in a jar, and I take a little knife and I didn't know the 45-degree trick, and I'm sure they're waterlogged, but they're sprouting. They're still sprouting. So
yeah. They really want to live. They're like Jack in the Box. Like that's their mission. Like everyone wants to live.
Yeah. That's right. That is so cool. This is so much fun. Okay, so we don't really need special sprouting trays. We can just get our hands on some mason jars, quart mason jars, to do the trick, huh?
Yeah, well, I actually, in my book, I mentioned like junkyard sprouting.
Oh, interesting.
Where you could use anything to sprout. like an unbleached paper towel, add the seeds, and get a little spray bottle, from the grocery store or from the Home Depot, and you put the seeds on there and you lightly mist them, simulating rain flow, and then you cover them, and then you lift up the cover, or you put another piece of paper towel over them and you continue to spray, and the sprouts will just grow right through the paper towel.
Do they receive sunlight through the paper towel?
They don't want sunlight until they're really mature. And it's interesting. Like if you grow broccoli sprouts, they're yellow,
right?
And because you're not exposing them to sunlight or even daylight. And then as soon as you give them daylight, not even sunlight, they will do photosynthesis, turn green, and form chlorophyll in their leaves.
Wow. So how long are they really supposed to be growing in the dark? I thought we were supposed to put the little jar in indirect sunlight from the beginning. No.
I generally will keep them in a dark environment for a few days.
Wow. That's so interesting. Well, wow. Now I'm going to try that. And then what a cool thing to show kids what photosynthesis is. This is a crazy cool thing to do with kids. I don't know, man. You could start with them at 5 years old. They'd be interested in this right up to teenage,
Oh, I have so many pictures of families sending me sprout face where their kids are stuffing sprouts into their mouth and learning to acquire that taste at a young age. I wish I didn't start to sprout until I was in my mid-30s. I wish I would have started to sprout as a kid.
That's so cool. Well, listen, I'm going to post links to many of these things you provided. The final thing I want to ask you about is, where's a good place to buy seeds?
It's interesting. Right now, many of the places are on back order because the survivalists are buying. So if you look on, in general, I would say, we know Amazon is delivering. So I would look for organic seeds, and they don't need more of our business, but I know that they're shipping. Yes. I love sproutman.com and sproutpeople.com. They're good places for seeds. In bulk, there's True Leaf Market, where I buy 35-pound buckets of seeds. So the larger the volume, the lower cost per pound you're getting. So those are good places. But I think if they're organic sprouting seeds, tested for high germination, you're in good shape.
All right. And I'm going to, I personally just found mine at the local plant center. They had a rack of seeds and there they were. So I think I'll be going back after I get off the phone.
Okay.
And my own survivalist strategy.
It's so hard not to hoard.
I know. I'm just buying a few packs, folks.
Yeah, I did.
And to that end, what I have noticed about all these hoarded items, with a few exceptions, is you wait a few days, everything's there again. And we just have to get out of our scarcity mindset, which this interview has put me in an abundant mindset. So we can relax and enjoy this process that we're in of creating a healthier new reality. We only touched on the health benefits of all of this, but I read the book, bits of the book, and I have to say I was blown away. The ultimate benefits here are you sleep better, you're more regular, you have more energy, you lose weight just by bulking up some of your diet with sprouts. That's like an amazing, amazing thing.
Yeah.
You've done a great thing here, Doug. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for you to see me and to see my book and to share the message. And my mission was to really make it easier for people to have more servings of fresh vegetables, and sprouts are a way to do it.
And then you just happen to time the book, or your publisher happened to time the book with a moment when all of America needs something to do, and you might as well do something healthy for yourself.
Yes. I mean,
this is wow.
Well, I have nothing to do with the timing, but I'll say there are no coincidences.
Yeah.
And I think that my mission is to also shift sprouts from being a garnish and being something from the hippy dippy trippies into something that's more mainstream.
Yeah.
in the book, I just want to say we put 40 recipes in the book of what to do with sprouts once you have them. And then in addition to the 40 recipes, we have a bonus recipe from a Michelin star chef, Jean-Georges.
Oh, great.
Carrot avocado salad.
Beautiful.
So he's like adding sprouts to Ultimate Gourmet because we want to become kind of mainstream.
Yeah, I thought of sprouts personally. One of my staples is baby arugula and lots of greens, organic greens every week to make salads. And if I get to a place or we get to a place where we can't really make those trips to the grocery store, I'm going to be making salads out of cabbage and carrots and little green onions we grow here and fruit we grow here and sprouts. I mean, that's a pretty fabulous salad right there,
Yeah. I would say easily half of what's on my plate is sprouts.
Yeah.
Every day.
Wow. Well, fascinating to talk to you. This is Doug Evans, the author of the Sprout Book, and there are going to be a ton of links on getting started with sprouting. And folks, if you loved sprouting, I would love it if you would send pictures of your sprouting projects to me, and I will post them on the show notes page. Suzanne@SuzanneFalter.com. You can find the show notes for this episode at SuzanneFalter.com. Just click on the podcast link. Doug, thank you. This is fabulous. Excellent.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you so much.
Terrific.
I'm so grateful.
So take a look for a moment as you think about your life. Could you use some more support? Like a lot more support? Because that's what's available when you drop by my free Facebook group, the Self-Care Group for Extremely Busy Women. Really, it's just a whole lot of us, a whole lot of people just like you who are eager to share ideas, help each other, share their vulnerabilities and their questions about life. It's really amazing how real and open and honest people are, especially now in challenging times. Do drop by. We would love to have you. This is a space for you if you're looking for more self-care. Just go to Facebook and search in the groups for the Self-Care Group for Extremely Busy Women. Send us a request and we'll get you right in there. See you soon. Okay, girlfriends, it is time for our big collective chill. So if you're driving, I'm going to say what I always say, which is please pull over. Give yourself this 2-minute break. It's only 2 minutes when you think about how many minutes are in your day. Give yourself a break. Wherever you are, just uncross your arms and legs and take a big sigh. Inhaling, circle your shoulders, roll your neck a little from the right and the left, and just give yourself a moment to get the tension out of your upper body. Inhale and exhale. And do it again. And one more time. Now give yourself a moment to just settle your thoughts. Whatever you've been worried about, whatever you've been thinking about, try to visualize it as a big cloud, like a gray rain cloud outside of your body above your head. Try to imagine that big, heavy rain cloud is wet and humid and maybe a little cold. Let it be up above you and out of your body. And as you see that big rain cloud there, feel the warm, sunny, good energy in your body collecting and gathering and moving you a few steps to the right, so that gray cloud of doom is left behind. Now let that sunny, bright, positive energy beam out of your forehead, your chest, your neck, your throat, your hands, your legs, every part of you. Let it glow like a beautiful aura all around your body. Giving yourself a chance to just enjoy that sweet, golden, glowing positivity coming from you. Wherever you are, this positivity is in your body. No matter what has happened, you can ride through this with that cloud of positivity now, instead of negativity. Let that sunny, bright, golden, sparkling energy carry you forth into the next moment and the next after that, knowing this above all else. You are going to be just fine. You really are. So until we meet again, my friend, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Self-Care for Extremely Busy Women. Hit the subscribe button wherever you found us, and you'll hear our next show as soon as it's posted. Everything you heard about today is on Suzanne's website, SuzanneFalter.com, SuzanneFalter.com. Just click on podcast to find the show notes page. Now, go ahead, take good care of yourself.